We're trying. We'll get a lot of things. Next, I'd like Shane Bruce to come up to do the introduction for David Montane.
All right, kids, are we having fun yet? It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you current candidate for State Senate District 42, David Montane. Some background information for you. This particular race, Taylor's race in 22 was very interesting. 3 candidates, well-funded. In this particular race, we got a superstar candidate we're running against, a guy named Jason Carter. Some of y'all might remember his granddaddy, who was president of these great United States at one point in time. Let me tell you, Jason's no piker. The boy has put $220,000 in the campaign kitty since he opened up his campaign in December. $220,000. That's a current market price for a state senate seat here in Georgia. Average cost for that is about 40 grand. Got another candidate that Dave's running against, Tom Stubbs, great Democrat, and an independent as well, Stephen Patrick. But Dave's holding his own, Dave's making advances. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you David Montane.
I won't take as much time as it seems like I'm going to take. I'm not going to read all this literature I have here, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my background. The thing that woke me up in politics, which was only a year and a half ago, was when I found out. Well, let me ask you if you true or false here. Heart disease in America is caused by consumption of cholesterol and saturated fat from animal products. True or false? Well, I learned the truth on July 21st of 2008 that during the period of rapid increase in heart disease from 1920 to 1960, American consumption of animal fats declined, but consumption of hydrogenated and industrially processed vegetable fats increased dramatically. And I joined the Weston A. Price Foundation, which I would encourage any of you that are interested in nutritional things to look into. And one of the amazing things that I learned from joining that organization was how badly our government, both on the state and federal level, but mainly on the federal level, have botched our eating supply, and all the shenanigans they pulled with agriculture and what they tell us with the USDA pyramid that's just upside down. And so that was my first awakening as far as politics of how badly things are, or how bad things are in government. So I became pretty disillusioned about that. And then about that time, or not long after that, as a small business owner, I was trying to deal with, well, where did these economic problems that we're going through come from? And I read a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Have any of you here read that book? Those of you who haven't, you really ought to consider reading that book. It's 600 pages, but it really reads like a detective novel, and it's about the Federal Reserve being planned 100 years ago to this year. The anniversary is this Thanksgiving. Right here in Georgia, they met in secret and formed this banking cartel to push through what they call the Federal Reserve System. The reason they named it that was because everybody was against central banks. And so they didn't want to call it central, so they called it a system. But later on, the New York banks became in charge, in control right away of it. And they didn't want to call it they called it federal, so it seemed like a government agency. And even though it's not. they just did an end run around the Constitution, and it didn't come out that they had planned all this in secret, all these New York bankers and a New York senator. But anyway, it's a fascinating story, and if you really want to know the history of the country for the last 100 years, behind the scenes and why we got into World War I and World War II, read that book. It's excellent.